Welcome back to DeLorean Rental, your number one choice when looking to rent a DeLorean time machine for your next party or event. Available nationwide from Los Angeles to New York, and a lot of places in between. Head over to DeLoreanRental.com and get a quote today. On today's fun episode, we're going to look at the top 10 mistakes made in the Back to the Future trilogy. Let's get started with number 10. The DeLorean's odometer is inconsistent. After Doc swindles a group of Libyan terrorists out of some plutonium, they go chasing after him seeking revenge. Marty finds himself behind the wheel of the DeLorean as he tries to flee. The audience knows what's coming more than Marty does at this point, and Robert Zemeckis uses a series of close-up shots to show the needle of the speedometer creeping up toward 88 miles per hour. The problem with this chase scene is that the numbers on the car's odometer are completely inconsistent. The first shot shows that there are 33,061 miles on the odometer, but seconds later it reads 32,994 miles. Back to the Future's iconic DeLorean was actually 6 different cars, which the crew switched in and out for different shots. This could explain the continuity error with the odometer. Number 9. An extra walks around the corner twice in a row. With so many extras on set to make Hill Valley look like a real town, it shouldn't come as a huge surprise that there is one particularly noticeable continuity error featuring a man in a brown jacket. When Jennifer's father comes to pick her up from in front of the clock tower, a man rounds the corner behind his car. A moment later, he is seen walking the exact same route, as if he has teleported back in between shots. This kind of minor continuity error doesn't detract from the quality of Back to the Future in any way. Most movies will have similar errors here and there. The fact that people have even pointed out this moment says something about the lasting appeal of Back to the Future. It's the kind of thing that could easily go unseen if people hadn't been obsessively watching and rewatching the movie for decades. Number 8. Marty's video isn't what he shot. When Marty lands back in 1955, he struggles to convince Doc that he has traveled back from 1985 thanks to one of his inventions. Eventually, he shows him a video that they filmed together in 1985 where Doc displays his latest invention, the time machine. Back to the Future shows Doc and Marty taping this exact video earlier, back in 1985. But the footage doesn't quite match up to the finished product. In the video, Doc is seen on screen as he says the words, "Never mind that now, never mind that now." However, Marty's camera is pointing straight down at the ground when Doc says these words in 1985. This is just another minor continuity error that can go unnoticed, but it's still hard to ignore for fans of Back to the Future who have seen the movie multiple times. Number 7. Marty would have destroyed the speaker sooner. Back to the Future gives a sense of who Marty is early on as he toys with a massive speaker system in Doc's house. He shows no restraint as he dials everything up as loud as it can possibly go, before plugging his guitar into the amp and blasting himself backwards with the sheer power of the sound. In real life, a sound wave powerful enough to knock someone off their feet would likely do irreparable damage to their hearing. But this isn't the only issue with this scene. The amp would have unleashed a violent screech as soon as Marty plugged the cable into the guitar. It's best practice to plug the cable in at both ends before turning the amp on. This avoids making the noise of the cable and the guitar jack making contact. If this scene followed realistic logic, Marty would have been incapacitated before he even played a single note. Number 6. The clock tower should be fixed. With so many time loops and paradoxes being created left, right, and center, Back to the Future has some potential plot holes. At the very least, there are a few mysteries which don't quite make sense, but trying to straighten out the tangled timeline caused by Doc and Marty's adventures might be impossible. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis have explained some of these contradictions, while others are just as puzzling as ever. Back to the Future establishes early on that the clock tower in Hill Valley stopped in 1955 when it got struck by lightning. But Doc and Marty reroute the lightning to strike the DeLorean. Presumably, this would mean that the tower should avoid any damage, but it's still shown to be broken when Marty returns to 1985. It's possible that the tower was struck by another bolt of lightning in the same storm. Number 5. One of the scores on the radio was wrong. Most of the scores that are heard over the radio are real scores from real games. This is a nice touch, but it makes it more noticeable that one score is slightly off. The radio broadcast claims that Texas A&M's football team beat Rice 20-10, but the real score was 20-12. The other problem with the almanac is that it's quite a slender magazine, and there's no way it could possibly contain the result of every football game, horse race, boxing match, and baseball game over a 50-year period. Number 4. Back to the Future distorts another popular movie. Fans of the Western genre will probably have picked up on some of Back to the Future's hidden jokes in Part 3, but there are subtle references to Clint Eastwood in both other movies in the trilogy. In Part 2, Biff is watching Eastwood's 1964 classic A Fistful of Dollars in his hot tub before Marty comes to interrupt him. It's only a minor background detail, so it would be easy to miss. Showing a fistful of dollars is a nice nod to the Western genre ahead of Part 3. Back to the Future Part 2 and Part 3 were filmed back-to-back, so there are a few clues that Marty's next adventure is set to take him back to 1885. However, the scenes of A Fistful of Dollars are shown in completely the wrong order. Each time the movie cuts back to show the movie in the background, it has either jumped backward or too far forward. Number 3. The two DeLoreans in 1885. One of the most notorious supposed plot holes in the Back to the Future trilogy comes from the fact that there are two versions of Doc's time machine which exist in 1885. Since so much of Back to the Future Part 3's narrative revolves around Marty's struggles to return to his own time period, it would make sense for Doc to try to use parts from his own DeLorean to help him. Both DeLoreans are broken, but Doc and Marty don't even try to figure out if they can mix and match parts from the two cars to end up with one working model. This would have solved the movie's big problem a lot quicker, but there have been several conflicting fan theories put forward to explain away this potential plot hole. It's possible that Doc's DeLorean had become even harder to salvage than he first thought. Number 2. The train would have hit the end of the track much sooner. As the steam train pushes the DeLorean along the tracks, it smashes through a sign hanging overhead which states that the track ends in a quarter of a mile at this time. The DeLorean speedometer reads 80 miles per hour, and it's still accelerating. This means that the car should have reached the end of the track in less than 12 seconds, but it takes over a minute in the movie. There simply wouldn't have been enough time for Marty to toss the hoverboard to Doc, and for him to safely whisk Clara away to safety. If the train had actually reached the end of the line in the time that it should have done, Clara would still be hanging upside down with her dress slowly ripping, and Marty would not have even passed the hoverboard back yet. It's one of Back to the Future's most exciting scenes, but it only makes sense if the sign is ignored. Number 1. Marty's headrest magically reappears. When Marty finally makes it back to 1985, he gets in his Toyota to go and pick up Jennifer. When he arrives at Jennifer's house, the headrest on his seat has suddenly appeared behind him. On the surface, this seems like just another inconspicuous continuity error that doesn't mean much, but it's linked to a much larger filmmaking quirk that can be seen in countless movies and TV shows. When filming scenes in a car, plenty of movies and TV shows remove the headrests. This gives the director more freedom to shoot from behind and to the side. It gives actors a chance to move their head in any way they want to, and it stops headrests from being too visually distracting. This may explain why Marty's headrest is missing at one point in Back to the Future Part 3 before magically reappearing. Well, There you have it, folks. The top 10 mistakes made in the Back to the Future trilogy. Did we miss any big ones that you've noticed? Leave a comment with any we missed. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode, Time Traveler.